You've let in whoever wants to be in, Bill?
Somebody's.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District. Board directors are present. Director McAvoy is in New Zealand and is appearing on Zoom. He can attend the meeting but cannot vote. Today is January the 17th, 2024. And with that, I will move on to item 3, which is community expression. Is there any member of the audience or the board that wishes to address the board on matters which are not on the agenda and for which we can take no action, but we are willing to entertain a brief discussion on the subject you wish to speak about? I'll call you first.
Thanks. Well, I'm Mary Beth Brannigan. This is Jim Heddle. We're longtime residents of Bolinas, and I'm here to maybe just go over this real quick. Currently, telecommunications companies and site developers are pushing hard to cite untested new wireless technology along the rights of way close to homes and schools and medical facilities, elder facilities, etc. The unincorporated parts of Marin County and West Marin need a strong telecom ordinance that gives local control about where, how, and if these new invasive telecommunications antenna are installed. They want to put these 4G, 5G, Wi-Fi, so-called small cells every 150 feet along the rights of way throughout rural West Marin. These small cells take a variety of forms and are not really small. They are not primarily for cell phone use, but to densify radio frequency radiation for Wi-Fi and to facilitate the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies. They use the same technology as the US military's directed energy weapons designed for crowd control that uses radio frequency energy to heat skin, causing intense pain in order to repel people. Many cities and towns have been unsuspectingly bulldozed by these small cells, which are sometimes as close as 8 feet from bedrooms or front doors. Courts have found a number of devastating California fires have been caused by telecommunications equipment on utility poles. They want to use the utility poles. About one macro antenna per month catches fire and collapses in the US. The negative impacts of these proposed small cells include damage to insects and pollinators, birds, and other creatures in foliage, potential adverse health effects to the most vulnerable, children, elderly, immune-compromised, pregnant women. Home values plummet between 20 and 30% near these small cells, exponential increase in fire danger, and unsightly equipment and generators on utility poles. Generous donors in West Marin, along with several environmental and health groups, have hired one of the top telecom attorneys in the US, Andrew Campanelli. We want him to upgrade our county ordinance in the strongest legal language to deal specifically with the onslaught of these small cells along the rights of way. Mr. Campanelli is standing by to craft an airtight county ordinance that emphasizes local control and creates an invincible buffer of legal protection for local jurisdictions. This ordinance would include all of West Marin and be subject to review and edits by the Board of Supervisors and the Community Planning Agency. We would like the ordinance to specify engineering checks for proper operation, fire hazard mitigation before being allowed to transmit, random checks on radiation transmission levels to ensure they're within FCC guidelines, which many are not right now, and appropriate setbacks. from homes, schools, facilities, and mixed use areas where people spend a lot of time. So we're asking you to please consider writing a letter to the Marin County supervisors requesting that they work with Mr. Pompanelli and us to write and adopt this protected ordinance as soon as possible. Thank you for considering.
All right. Let me go around the table and see how people feel. What do you think?
Well, we're not taking any action on it, but it's something that I'm interested in learning more about.
Okay, so she's asking us to,
Well, we can't write
Right,
anything
okay.
about it because it's not on as an action item, but
okay, if you're gonna put it on our next agenda, would you be, are you supportive of putting it on the agenda then, Frank?
I would be interested in learning more. I'm not sure that I'm interested in having it on as an action item for
Mhm.
next agenda,
Okay,
but.
I could provide a lot more
I'm sure,
data.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you can, and yeah.
all right,
I
so,
think it's something that. It is something that is interesting to me to learn more about.
okay, and possibly put on the agenda, you're saying, okay, all right, what are you saying too?
Yeah, I've been following the big next door thread about this, and I just feel like there isn't the scientific studies that everyone's asking for. I'd love to see that information. So like, I know there's a lot of study out there, and you referenced a lot of it, so I would also be very interested in learning more about it.
Okay, so would you also be supportive of putting an item on the agenda for us to consider it? Not necessarily to write the letter, but to gather more information?
Yeah, to gather more information. I think I don't know enough to make a decision right now.
Right.
But I would love to learn more. I think
Okay.
it's important. I think that there's enough people in town that want this as well.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing is we're being asked to review a draft letter, right? We're not ready to. Because we haven't seen it, we hear
Exactly.
you tonight,
Yeah,
but why don't you put together a proposed draft letter with all the backup and we can review that and then consider at that time whether we would be agreeable to approving the draft. To move forward to,
To be sent to the board of supervisors, supporting the. Asking them to work with the attorney. Is that what you're asking?
Mhm.
Is that
Yeah.
correct about that?
Kevin, what do you, oh, I'm sorry.
you've done enough work, so give it to us in some kind of written format and. I'm hearing, nobody's ready to make an approval tonight, but
of course.
give us a draft.
Mhm.
And I think that would be, I want to help you move towards the next step, so.
And Kevin, you're free to join in the discussion on this. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I don't really have an opinion on the matter. I sort of feel like BPUD has had these conversations before. Correct me if I'm wrong, but some telecommunications equipment went up at the firehouse, and I think there was a lot of opposition to it. I'm just curious if there's been any studies about any harmful effects from that equipment, or if that has been studied at all. Do our guests know anything about that?
They're not, that's the problem. They have not done testing on 5G. The millimeter wave technology that is, except for the Department of Energy's use of it as a directed energy weapon. So, we do know the effects. We have over 1,000 peer-reviewed studies of what does happen to biological systems when exposed to man-made radio frequency radiation.
All right, are you supportive, Kevin, of the idea that the rest of the board members seem to feel that why don't they present some materials to us, including a draft letter? And we can put all of that on our next agenda and decide what to do about it after reviewing the letter and the proposed materials that come with it. Are you supportive of that as well?
Sure. I guess I'm reluctantly supportive of putting it on the agenda for next time.
Oh,
Why reluctantly, just curious,
Oh, sorry, I can't tell who is asking that.
person,
Oh, hey, again, I don't really have an opinion about it, but I'm open to reading the science, peer reviewed science about it.
Okay, well, I think that there's a majority of the board that feels that they would be willing to take a further look. So if you folks want to bring something to the BPUD, give it to us in advance, we'll put it on the agenda, and then we'll have an opportunity to review what you give us and can decide where we go from there, okay?
Thank you. I just want to reiterate that what we're asking is that there is maximum local control to protect people from untested technology that would be very close to homes.
Sure, no, we get all that, so yeah,
Okay.
just bring us, whatever it is that you would like us to do and supporting material and take a look.
Okay, great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you both.
Mhm. All right.
Grace, did you have your hand up?
I do have an item. There, Leo Kostelnik, the interim superintendent of the school, asked me to bring this forward. There's gonna be a community-wide school meeting on February 6th from 5:30 to 7:30 in the Casada at the school. We're trying to get as many community partners as well as community members, parents and non-parents to come to this meeting. The focus is talking about the Belina Stinson School, and the two main questions are, what do you value about the school and what hopes do you have for the future of the school? And the information that we gathered from the community is going to inform our school plan and the local area plan, the strategic planning moving forward for the school. This is something that we do every 3 years. The LCAP is every 3 years. And with Leo's leadership, we're really trying to involve community partners. The fire department is invited, community center, and he asked me to bring this to the BPUD. I can be there as sort of a BPUD person, but anybody else would be great to have. So we're just trying to spread the word.
Okay,
So please come.
all right,
February 6th from 5:30 to 7:30, dinner provided and childcare for 3 years and older, but you've got to sign up for that.
okay,
And contact me if you have any questions.
all right.
We also do vegetarian and gluten free because it's Bolinas.
Any other community expression items?
I
Yes.
would like to just introduce myself. I'm
Yes.
Georgia, in case anybody on Zoom doesn't know me. I am going to soon take over the general manager position, and I started last week. And it's been a great experience. I'm really appreciating just the hard work that all of the employees of the district partake in, and it's been really great to just shadow Jennifer this last week. Yeah, it's been really wonderful. So just wanted to
Excellent. And on behalf of our board, we welcome you. And look forward to it.
Great.
Glad to hear it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So great.
All right, well, with that, are there any more community expression items from people here or in the audience? None appearing. We will go on to item 4, which is the manager's report and project updates. Take it away, Jennifer.
Okay, first is our update on the status of the water supply. There is a memorandum in your binders and was posted on our website that, the memo states as of the date it was written, that we had received 14.39 inches of rain so far this year. That's upgraded now to 15.39 because we got an inch of rain in this last rainstorm. And that information is shown in the charts in the memo that show also that we're still below average rainfall for this time of year. For average rainfall through January at the district is 19.35 inches. So we're just about 4 inches below average, but that could change this weekend because we have anywhere, the forecasts are changing all over the place, but it looks like we'll get anywhere between 3 and 4, maybe more inches of rain. So we should catch up to average at that, if the forecasts are right. And that's rain starting Friday through Tuesday right now is forecast. Just so for your planning purposes, the heaviest rain is forecast for Sunday. But just to give a sense, I was sort of looking at comparative numbers that the average rainfall in January is 6.5 inches, and we've had just under 3.5. So that kind of, just gives you the sense. We started kind of falling behind average rainfall in October. We were above average rainfall in August and September, and then we fell back a little bit in October, November, and December. Not hugely, but just we were getting, that's why we're under now. But I do believe, I think it's highly likely we'll be caught up to average rainfall by next week. We did the rainfall progression analysis that shows that we've had 24 years in the district when our rain records show that we received 14.39 inches of rain or less through the end of January. And during that time, the prediction would be, the best fit prediction would be a total annual rainfall for the year of 24.34 inches. I have a feeling that we'll be getting more than that. That a lot of talk out there in the meteorology world about expectation that February and March could be wetter than usual. But I don't, when I went to the National Weather Service briefing last month at the county, they were kind of seeing indications that the likelihood of that could be receding. So, who knows? But at least what we have in the direct forecast that now looks fairly on is that we'll be getting some rain at the end of the week, and we should be catching up a little bit. Since the last reporting period, well, since December 22nd and January 15th, water production in the district's been averaging just over 62,000 gallons a day, which is a slight bump up from last reporting period. And then consumption is also up a little bit to 64,000 gallons a day average. And I think that's probably likely the holidays and, more people at home. And there was a lot of surfing and stuff going on during the high surf events. So we think that's probably explains the bump up in consumption. Both of our reservoirs are full and spilling, and the creek just continues, really high flows in the creek. Water is, over both of the dams. And we are continuing to supply the town with water exclusively from the Arroyo Hondo Creek. I'll say a little bit more about water quality issues in just a minute. Any questions about water supply? Okay. With regard to our groundwater wells project, as I reported at the December meeting, our consultant submitted our coastal development permit applications to the county on December 21st. And yesterday, the senior planner assigned to our project came out and visited the sites, and Georgia and I went with her to the sites and she indicated that she'll be sending a follow-up letter probably by the end of this week with regard to any questions or additional information that she'll need to make her findings. And then we also received a notice earlier this month that our project manager at the Department of Water Resources, and that's the entity that is funding a large portion of this project, our project manager has been changed. So we have a new project manager, and that person has scheduled a meeting with us at the end of this week, wanting to, sounds like kind of having an ambitious schedule of wanting bi-weekly meetings with us on the project. I think we'll probably be able to modify that a little bit, just because we're just still in this phase of waiting for the permission from the county via the coastal permit process. We continue to be in close communication with the land trust about the timeline of our project and where things stand vis-a-vis their eventual project at 31 Wharf.
I had a quick question about the county senior planner that you're meeting with. Did she know about this project before? The letter was completely boilerplate and
Yeah.
seemed to have nothing to do with the actual project
Yeah.
particularly.
Yeah, that is the boiler. I did include the letters in your binders. You're right.
Yeah.
Those are recognizable as boilerplate letters. When she came out, I thought she definitely had a much better working understanding of the projects, and that the letters
That's
would
reassuring, because I
indicate,
was
yeah.
not impressed by the letter.
Yeah, I think she was just trying to get it out, and I was grateful that they were hopping right on the site visit and moving things along, because we've emphasized that we have a grant funding deadline for the project, you know, and they're trying to accommodate that. But you know, she definitely did, you know, ask questions and inform her. I think the site visit was really helpful to get to lay eyes on everything.
Okay.
Yeah. From an operations, the other thing was that, just on the grant, and the new project manager there, I reported last month and gave you a copy of our first quarterly report, because what the grant funding contract requires is that we submit quarterly reports, and that we report on the first quarter going back to when the funding was authorized. But the new grant manager wants us to give a report that covers the entire 17-month period between, you know, from May 2022 to the present. That is when we first received notice that we were going to be approved for funding, even though we didn't get the actual agreement for a year and a half. So that's another project we'll be working on over the next couple of weeks to get that in. Kind of makes sense to get caught up, but it's not what the contract says we have to do, but we want to make the grant manager happy. So in general operations, when I was alluding earlier to the High Creek flows and all, you know, that the benefit of the rain is of course obvious. It helps our water supply, but on the downside, it does create water quality issues. The turbidity in the creek goes way up, and we, you know, we find it much easier and better for the treatment plant and operators that we actually turn off the water plant, and when the water quality available to us degrades like that, because if we're trying to make water, so to speak, then what we're doing is really putting our filters and all our equipment through a much tougher process. It entails a lot of overtime frequently to monitor things. So, you know, and we have the good foresight and of the district for many years to have the 2 water tanks that we have, where we have quite a lot of water in storage, which affords us the opportunity to be able to do that. And so we will probably have the plant on tomorrow to make additional water, and then going into the weekend, you know, we'll probably turn it off because we're forecast to get so much rain. And then once that water quality clears up, we'll go back onto the creek source. So our staff has also been using their time recently to do a lot of different training classes. And on February 8th, the BCPUD will be hosting defensive driving training here at the district. That's something that our insurer, our JPIA, likes to have our employees do every 3 years, and they provide that training. And because we've got this great conference room here in Bolinas, they like coming out here. We've invited the Stinson Water District folks to join us and other neighboring districts. And so that's a 3-hour course that everybody will be taking. And I put some materials in your binder that you can see that JPIA is recommending that we also have all of our employees acknowledge, sign an acknowledgement form that talks about, you know, district expectations about safe driving practices, and then to also implement essentially a no use of cell phone while driving policy, which of course, I mean, our staff know that, but it's, you know, we can have a policy in place and a policy about vehicle backups. And so they provided us with template forms, and we'll be going over those with the staff and customizing that as appropriate to the district. So that's this is just sort of a sample of some things that happen from time to time. Think that the JPIA finds that in their experience, these kind of policies are helpful to reduce losses. And so they share samples with all of their member districts and ask people to get policies in place. So that's what we'd be following through about. And then also that afternoon, the JPIA representative will also do a tour of our facilities, probably the water treatment plant and sewer pond property.
So is those types of policies, is that something that has to go through us, or can you do that as you or Georgia is the?
Yeah, I mean, what we've typically done on things like that is include them or associated with like our illness and injury prevention plan that we update internally and train the staff on. Again, it's kind of at your direction. I mean, it's certainly, you know, we can talk about that of having a formalization of that process through the board. I don't think it's required, but we can certainly do that.
As long as you're happy with the way that it's codified, I'm happy with that
Yeah.
as well. I just was wondering.
Yeah, Georgia and I will talk about that.
I mean, I can imagine it goes through your just operations and maybe the finance committee, you know, so you see it already as a line item.
It's up to you guys, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, it's not costing any. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's see, we're also just on the operations side, I've mentioned that we've had this reoccurrence of Azola on the surface of the Woodrat 1 reservoir, and the guys have come up with an interesting approach they want to try where, you know, we've been removing the Azola, and it's fairly labor intensive. We have an idea now that the reservoirs are spilling. And we right now have a screen in front of the intake, the inlet pipe of the overflow pipe, and where we could raise that and allow a certain amount of Azola to go through. And they're actually kind of devising a catchment net this is actually a thing that exists for like stormwater drains that you actually attach onto that. Like this is used at like coastal communities to catch trash so that it doesn't go out to the beach. And we want to do an experiment where we'll attach one of those to the exit portion of the overflow pipe, catch the Azola there, and then we'd be able to use the backhoe to lift that, which would probably be hundreds of pounds. It's quite heavy. That's one of the reasons that this is so difficult. And we cannot put the backhoe up near the reservoir. It's just too risky that it could sink. And so you can't really use heavy equipment up there. So that's an idea that we're going to be implementing a collective thinking. I give a lot of credit on this one to Blake Miller. I think he saw something about these nets that can be put on the end of the storm drains. And so we're looking into getting a couple of those and giving that a try.
Good idea.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Let's see, on January 1st, just a few days ago, the State Water Board issued another new order, and this is a technical reporting rule where an additional annual report will be required, and they're revising the form of the standard electronic annual report. And I think there's some more requirements in there that I haven't yet had a chance to totally digest. I'll give you more of an update next month as needed, but it's just sort of the kind of ongoing addition of regulatory reporting that is going on these days. Last month, you approved a project to do the safety pruning and removal of some trees that are eucalyptus trees that are at the next to Mesa Road at our water storage tank site. And I just got an email tonight from the county that they will not require a coastal permit for that. But they are suggesting I coordinate with the county if the trees are in the right of way. And that raises an interesting point. If the trees are in the right of way, then they're not on our property. And that would be a county project, so
And they would be responsible for paying for that, okay, yeah.
So I'll see what I can find out. If we have to get a survey to prove that, the survey is gonna cost more than the project, and so,
Really,
anyway, I'll let you know what
unless the county has to pay for this.
yeah, I mean, it's sort of, I can see it going a number of ways, but, maybe we'll be able to come to a common sense,
Yeah.
solution.
When the trees started falling down on Lima Bolinas Road between Mesa and downtown, remember there were several, and then there had to be a determination of which trees were on our property and which were in the county right away.
Yeah, this I'm talking about up at the water storage
Right,
tank
yeah.
site.
Right,
Yeah.
right, but the principle, I guess I'm addressing is that there had to be a determination that
Yeah.
was made
I'm curious.
as to
about
which
that.
side of the boundary line those trees were on. And how did they do it? Did they do it with a survey or did they accept parcel maps and measurements? I mean, how was that done? Because it's the same issues we're talking about now, different
Well,
road, but.
It's my understanding the county, there is now a survey of that area. I don't know that there was at the time. And there isn't one that I know of at our property at the water tank site.
Right,
It's sort
okay.
of, it's, you know, if you look at the county parcel maps all over Bolinas, you can see when a property's been surveyed, and
Yeah,
I don't know, I mean, Angie, you probably know better than I would, 10% of the properties in Bolinas been surveyed, or?
yeah. I didn't think that we ever found a survey map for the area that I'm talking about, and yet there was a decision ultimately made.
Yeah,
Oh, those trees, that's your tree, that's our tree, and that's how we split it, right? We paid for
Right,
some.
from the stop sign to Mike Akins.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly,
Yeah, and which tree falls in which.
So if they were able to make that determination, I'm wondering if they can't use the same process, whatever it was, to do the trees we're talking about now, because I don't know that we should have the burden of paying for that survey, which could be
no,
expensive.
it's a great point, and that's what I was curious about, what determines the county right of way?
Yeah,
And can we decipher what that is of a tree that might be on the property of the county versus, you know, a
Oh, yeah.
private individual?
yeah,
Right.
Versus having to go out and pay for a survey on every occasion. So do they have a definition of what is determined as part of their?
When they do a survey,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
No,
they have
that's-
county surveyors.
It's not just like a dimension from center line of road.
No,
Exactly,
no,
that's what I
the
was
center
saying.
line, the road is almost never actually in the center of the right of way.
That's our problem,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I guess we should make a best guess on whether the trees are on our property or not, and if we conclude that they're not, we should just tell them that they're not. On our
Yeah.
property, and the burden shifts to them to prove they are, and try it that way.
We can get some more information. Mesa Road also changes widths at different sections of it,
Oh,
or different
okay.
widths. It's not the same width.
Just to make.
No, I mean, I think there's like 4 different widths
Yeah.
of it.
So is the center, right? That's gonna
Right.
change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Well,
okay,
I'd fall on the side of whatever's cheapest.
yeah. That's, I'm trying to
Yeah.
avoid the
Yeah.
cost of a survey.
Right, if we don't, yeah, I mean, but if it winds
The
up being
county
cheaper
and
to
us,
just
yeah.
take care of the trees.
Yeah, well, that's a good point, it's just. The precedent, it may be that on this project, it would be cheaper,
I'm with you,
yeah, but in the
Yeah.
long run.
yeah. Nice.
Anyway, let's take a shot.
We should hear from the county either way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
and speaking of the county, Georgia today attended I think I've been reporting for months that we've been going on Wednesdays, the same day as the board meeting, to the Office of Emergency Management meetings. And Georgia went to today's meeting that was on the scintillating topic of debris management, removal management. And I warned Georgia ahead of time that this is by FEMA and Cal OES, that there's very document heavy and intensive requirements for everything, as we've learned when we've done these disaster assistance applications, which we're still working on from last year. And so in keeping with that, there was a 225-page guidance document that was distributed at the meeting. And so but it sounds like it was worthwhile, and ideally will be helpful to us in the future when needing to do documentation. And this is all around stuff like what happened last year, where we had a lot of erosion and stuff slough off inside the Arroyo Hondo Creek watershed onto the road, and needed to have that removed, as well as trees and whatnot. All of that's considered debris removal. And so that was the topic of, and it was a training, what went from about 8:30 to 4 today. Yeah, so. Then on the sewer side of operations, we have been busy, the staff has been busy monitoring for sources of I&I infiltration and inflow into the system, which, as I've been talking about, we tend to see in the winter months, either from high tide or surface water or groundwater intrusion. And you know, this task is a little bit like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. It just really doesn't end. You're just kind of constantly looking for issues, and the flows, the I&I into the system so far this year is much lower than last year. I think that's a testament to all of the repairs that have been done. But we had an incident where the under house exposed plumbing from one of the houses over Wharf Road was torn apart during that really the really high tide, when we had that storm surge coming from offshore, that I believe was like at the end of December, I think. Well, wait a minute, that can't be right. Must have been, no, that was this month. So in any event, our staff was really on it. They detected that there was a huge spike in flows into the sewer system, and were able to pretty quickly identify what had happened. And as soon as the tide receded enough, we were able to cap the exposed section of the lateral where the lagoon was essentially going into the sewer system. And then the homeowner did a really proactive repair, but and I commend the staff for being able to pinpoint that really quickly and being on it. And we had about, our estimate is we had about 30,000 gallons come in from that, which is about double our the usual flows, but in the scheme of things, that's not that bad. But so that was interesting.
What does that mean for that homeowner then? Sorry, I mean, how they are, is there some culpability or?
No, I mean, it's their responsibility to fix it, and of course you can't use your house until it's fixed because you don't have a functioning wastewater system. Yeah. So, so that, that's going to be the case anytime someone, has a problem like that. But that, I mean, I think the only other, there was only one other property that I know of that's happened to, that I can remember in the last 20 years that we knew about. And at that time we had like 200,000 gallons come in from that. That was many years ago, but yeah. And then sort of on a related note, what I wanted to talk about too was a proposed issue with the sewer lateral at 79 Wharf. That was one of the laterals that was repaired last year, along with the 10 or 11 others. And we approved a repair there, and it was effective. And it worked. We inspected it during high tides and confirmed that the repair was effective. And then this year, when these storms started up again, we found that the same lateral has an issue at another point. And we think it's the road moving, and or the College of Marin project across the street. And the homeowners understandably quite upset, that the lateral is having another issue. And I think that there's what we also have found is that the road has also moved enough that it's moved over the water meter to some extent. We're going to have to actually remove the water meter and reset it, because the road, I think that's pretty good evidence to the county that we've got an issue there. And so I would like to suggest, well, I solicited a proposal from our kind of emergency, our meaning the district's emergency contractor that we've gone to in the past, Nixus Services. For they can do trenchless repair of this break. And he gave us a proposal for $5,400, which is very reasonable. He's also available as soon as Friday. If the board is comfortable moving forward, of course, I want to say the BPUD does not generally ever repair sewer laterals. Those are the responsibility of the homeowner. But I wanted to raise this for consideration. We don't have to do it on Friday. We could take it to the county and say, hey, we really think that there's an issue here that that the homeowner's experiencing because of this movement of the county road, and solicit their participation in this. So I wanted to raise it. I want to get your input.
Right, and you presented this a few days ago, I guess, as to whether we should just go ahead and do it, and I suggested that we discuss it at a board meeting to decide how to deal with it.
Is there some way to make it contingent on the construction schedule from the College of Marin, if we are thinking that's in part what has been impacting?
I think it's more likely the movement of the, I don't know. I mean, that's gonna be the problem, is we know that it appeared after that sheet piling thing happened.
Right.
We know that.
But I mean, being in construction myself, I know you can tie things back to when the majority of the earthwork shoring is been happening, and when that is done, then they're in concrete foundation.
Well, yeah, that could
And
have,
right, so
I see where
once
you're
you're
going.
once you're out of that concrete foundation shoring work, then you're pretty assured you're not doing any more earthwork stabilization that would impact neighbors, because then you're in framing and,
Yeah.
corn shell. Sorry, I'm going into details, but I think if we could tie it back to the College of Marin's construction schedule, once they are out of their earthwork, their concrete and foundation, and they're into corn shell, then we could tie it back to, they are not going to be impacting any kind of movement on that lateral. They could not be responsible for that.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that the $5,400 to repair it is less than the amount of time and impact on our system from all the rain we're gonna get and potential high tides and staff overtime and
Yeah,
things like that?
that's a good question. Look, it's always gonna be better to repair it sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think it's very difficult to quantify.
Sure.
But,
So here's my thought. I think that the work should be done sooner rather than later. And that if we have to pay upfront to get it done, then we should, because it's not a good thing for our system. But I think we should submit a claim to the county to be reimbursed, because I do think that it is caused by Wharf Road's movement, and Wharf Road is a county maintained road. And the fact that it's now moving to the point where it's starting to interfere with the access to the water meter is pretty good evidence that something has changed in that way, that I don't think would have been caused just by the College of Marine Construction project. No, I think it sounds like it's more of just a general movement and we've been observing that over the years. That Wharf Road is definitely moving towards the lagoon. And some years ago, the county came along and drove in a whole bunch of metal plates trying to stop that movement. And we got into a debate with them over whether the road was moving or not. And So what they did is they drove a metal pin into the middle of the road
Hmm.
and measured it from some point, and then they came back
The road's
later
moving.
and they measured it again
Uh-huh.
and said, well, the pin is still far, and we said, well, that's because it's sitting in a road and the whole road is moving, so. The relationship of the pin to wherever they're measuring was not a good method, you know, and but since it is, because our concern at that time was that if there was enough movement in Wharf Road, we could start getting interference with our water pipe and our sewer pipe, because at some point the pressure would be just too much on those pipes.
Have we seen a portion, sorry,
No, go ahead.
but that's a portion of Wharf Road. Because there's a portion of that, I think, with the Little Mesa that we have seen, certainly on the seawall that the county owns. Is moving into the lagoon, but the other part of Wharf Road is not moving.
And where is that different, where's the line that you're talking about being the portion that's moving and the portion that's not?
Well, you can see it on the county seawall, right at the BPUD property. There's maybe 12 inches where the seawall has moved inwards, and where the other part of Wharf Road from the Rod and Boat Club all the way back down to the beach has not moved. So there's about an inch and, I'm sorry, 12 inches that's got a gap, and you can go down and see it.
Well, I guess my suggestion would be, number one, that we get it fixed, because I think that's essential for the operations that we have in danger. And number two, I think we should at least submit a claim to the county that it appears to us that it's based on movement of Wharf Road. And we'd like to be reimbursed for it because it's a county maintained road. And see what they say. I think it would be a harder claim to go against College of Marin, although if you think it'd be worth it, we could do that as well.
No, I wasn't making a claim, I just was saying, let's not do the work now if we know that they're still doing earthwork. For another 6 weeks.
Oh,
That, I wasn't trying to make a claim back necessarily to them, but if they could potentially be impacting this, then let's find out their construction schedule and say, okay, well, let's wait 6 more weeks.
But what do you think about delaying that work for 6 weeks? Is that?
I don't know what it is.
Or talking to them.
Yeah,
It might be
I would just
information.
ask them, what's their construction schedule?
What's the status down there now? I haven't even seen it, so I'm sorry, I haven't been around there. Do you know? That
The status of
the status of the earthwork, is there?
No, that's what's shocking is they haven't relayed any of that information to any neighbors. And what I have heard is neighbors concerned that, you know, they feel their house shaking and moving. And I think there were like 20 concrete trucks a few weeks ago
Yeah, that's right.
that I didn't even know was, you know, on the schedule. We should know that as neighbors. BPUD should know that as like some
Mhm.
major construction activity.
We've
The
had
fire
some-
department should know that, like if there was a fire happening, we've got 20 concrete trucks lined up. Anyway, I was not there that day, but I received a lot of I guess calls around it, and I'm not part of that activity, so.
All right, well, let me see how the board goes. Yeah, what do you think?
I would, much as I'd hate to put our own money down when somebody else might need to pay for it. I think that for the sake of our system, probably better to fix it and move on, because it's not very expensive, really. But the question that I have is there some way that our staff can measure road movement? Like, do we have to count on the county to measure it, or can we stick a stake in somehow and measure it ourselves? I mean, could we be monitoring what's going on in different portions of Wharf Road? Because we've watched, you know, we've watched the pavement go into the water in front of Barry Antos's office, you know, down by the Rod and Boat Club. Is there some way that we as an entity can quantify that without having to rely on people who are less interested than we are?
Uh-huh.
So that's my question.
Okay, and what do you think about the short term though?
I think we should fix it and try to get the county to pay for it.
Okay, what do you say, Andrew?
I think we should fix it. I think we should really carefully monitor it once we fix it. Like if there's any problems, what the schedule for College of Marin is, if possible,
Mhm,
so that we
yeah.
can say, hey, they were doing some sort of excavation or, you know, vibration and the problem happened
Yeah,
the day of. But yeah, I think we should fix it because it's gonna only get bigger if it's an issue.
okay. I'm inclined to go that way. What do you think?
Sure, I'm happy to fix it up front, but I would ask that we understand the College of Marin construction schedule and how that could potentially be impacting.
Sure, definitely. What do you say, Kevin?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said. I think somebody should reach out to College of Marin to find out their construction schedule. I'd hate to do this work only to have it undone soon. So I also think it'd be wise to reach out to both College of Marin and Marin County DPW to let them know that we're undertaking this emergency repair and we hope to be reimbursed for it rather than doing the work, paying for it, and then asking for the reimbursement. I think it'd be wise to tell them ahead of time before we start the work. I also wanted to ask Jennifer, I think in early December, we talked about an emergency repair to a part of Wharf Road that was affecting our infrastructure. And I'm wondering, I can't remember where exactly that was and if this could possibly be tied into that work. I believe DPW was going to come out to do some work on Wharf Road already. Did that ever happen or what's the status of that?
It hasn't happened. I've heard nothing further about it, and it's in a different section of Wharf Road. Significant, you know, not close at all. Relatively, I mean, given that Wharf Road isn't very far.
But that's an indication of how quickly we're gonna get response from the county.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think Kevin makes a good point there. I'm happy to do that and want to really underscore this is a unique situation. I mean, I want
yeah,
the board to actually make that finding. We normally do not repair customer sewer laterals, so
Right.
this is.
in Georgia.
Can I make a point about that?
Mhm.
It seems like it would, because you guys are under the impression that there's still pressures on this line. And the reason that my understanding that you guys went out of your kind of normal protocol or thinking about going out of your normal protocol to repair this line is not because of those external pressures being your fault or anything like that, only because you advised this person to undergo a reparation that didn't work. So I think it's important to communicate with the homeowner that this, when you get into repairing this line, this is not an assurance that you guys are responsible for further you know, destruction or whatever of this lateral line.
Right, and our willingness to do it is a one-time. only.
Yes,
Yeah,
because it's basically to mitigate the issue that happened previously. It's not like oh, this lateral line is our problem in perpetuity.
right.
Good point.
And perhaps the claim for reimbursement, should send that notice. I agree with you, Kevin. I think we should give notice to both the
Absolutely.
College of Marin and the county
Yeah.
that we're gonna go ahead and do it because it's.
And the homeowner, right?
Yeah,
They need to all be tied in together.
yeah,
With
and
the-
we're willing to spend it up front because it's a danger to our system in a greater way, but we're looking for reimbursement and also it's not a precedent. To take responsibility for any further damage to his line or something, yeah.
Right, which to me is another reason why it might be in our best interest to monitor movement down
Yeah,
there, because
yeah.
there are other laterals.
Yeah,
Lots of other
Yeah.
laterals, you know.
well, there's been talk, I mean, over the years as I've been on this board about the entire Little Mesa. Sort of migrating towards the lagoon, you know, I mean, that's the general view, so. Who's responsible for, you know, the damage that causes, that's our one. All right,
Can I ask Jennifer, has that lateral that we're talking about recently been modified or upgraded at all?
No, well, I
Well, they
don't,
fixed
not
it,
that I
right?
know of, other than the repair that was done last year.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Mhm.
So this is it, because you haven't said who in particular.
79, yeah,
homeowners.
79 more.
Sorry, okay,
Yeah.
79 or more. So it is a lateral that's recently been repaired.
Yeah, and it's directly across from the College of Marin. Directly across, it's next to the, it's old dentist office.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I asked that because I saw the BPUD guys, but they were down in front of my house repairing a lateral, but it was. They obviously must have been sussing it out from. I don't know, point of contact in front of my house that had nothing to do with my property, but was addressing the lateral down the way.
I think
So-
that they were looking for points of intrusion,
Yes,
Not
Exactly.
repairing a
not
lateral.
repairing, they were just, assessing
okay.
where, because the tidal flow was coming in, and so they were
Yeah.
trying to figure out where.
okay, thank
Okay.
you.
So does that give you enough direction? I like Grace's proposal too, that, you know, not that our staff doesn't have enough to do. But if anybody could think of a good way of trying to measure, you know. That movement and determine, is Wharf Road really moving, you know, towards the lagoon and how much, because we need to know that for the long run.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the staff is qualified to do that, but I mean, we can,
Either.
yeah.
I'm not sure how it even.
It would be interesting to learn a little bit more about it, and I understand about staff time, but. At the moment, we see it when there's like big. Differences in the pavement and there's sinkholes.
Yes,
Where it's obviously something's going on, I mean,
Yeah.
of course, the staff.
Right in front of
Well
that
before
house is very specific.
Mhm, yeah,
Uh-huh.
It's very
So-
specific. They've come in and put more and more and more asphalt right in front of that
Right.
house.
So
Yeah.
so we see that happening.
yeah,
It
you know,
seems-
go ahead.
Seems like somebody in town could take that on as a
I-
personal project.
I think we might wanna ask Ralph Kamicha,
Mm,
who, and he's a PhD in geology, I believe. He helped us locate where to dig the well for, that's ended up being irrigating Mesa Park, but nobody else could find the water. And
yeah,
it
or
might be worth
somebody-
asking,
somebody who's a surveyor, I don't know what skill set.
somebody who knows about earth movement. and-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ralph would.
But what you're seeing at 79 is not sinkholes. We're seeing a rippling, which is of the pavement, which suggests that. The Little Mesa is moving in, okay, so that's having rippling. Where you're seeing sinkholes is the other part of Wharf Road. And that feels very different. As to water runoff coming from the hillside. Maybe undermining the seawall, which is creating a suction that's taking some of the earth from below, which is why you're getting that sinkholes.
Yeah.
So that's different than what we're seeing at 79, and that's why I want to differentiate what's happening on Wharf Road. There are two things there. There's one the county owns that seawall, and it's moving into the lagoon. And then there's the other part from the Rod and Boat Club west, I guess. And that's where you can see about a foot and a quarter inch difference where that seawall is going into the lagoon, so.
I guess, yes, I agree with you. And my thought about us getting a little bit more involved in the monitoring part of it is that it's our infrastructure along there, so nobody cares about it more than we do.
Yeah.
Well, the property owners probably, but but you know, we're
Yeah.
extremely
Yeah.
involved in that, and
I think the question is just, what are the points of monitoring?
yeah.
What do you think,
Chris, I
Kevin?
know enough about.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea if we can monitor a few points. I'm thinking something as simple as a surveyor's pin, you know, those little metal round, about dime sized, silver pins you see all over the place. If we could sink a few of those in along Wharf Road and measure to a fixed point on the, on the Little Mesa side, I guess on the sidewalk side. That's my only idea. I don't know if it's something that could be done with a ram set, one of the tools that the crew might have. I also don't want to be putting a lot of stuff into a county road. They might not like us putting a bunch of holes in their road. I don't know if that's okay either.
All right. So is there a consensus that we're gonna pay for the repair now? We'll let the county and the College of Marin know that this is what's happening, what we're gonna do, and we're looking for reimbursement
And then
Prior to
and the homeowner.
prior to doing the work, we'll look.
Yeah, put them on
Notify them.
notice, yes, right.
Mhm.
And we'll pursue who might be able to help us measure the movement of Wharf Road to see what's going on,
I'd be interested in finding out more.
Me too, yeah. All right, well, let's unless there's any further discussion on that, I think we could continue with your report.
Sorry, Jack, did you mention contacting College of Marin to find out their construction schedule and making sure we don't do the work until they're done with all the heavy equipment and earthworks? Did you
I
mention,
forgot to say that, but good point.
do we agree
I
we
have
want to
a
wait?
contact with the construction guy. So
Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
I have a contact with the construction foreman on the earthwork section. It's WR Ford. He's worked for the district in the past. He's called me on various aspects of the job. I can ask him.
Yeah, okay, good, yeah,
But maybe to Kevin's point, we're not making a recommendation to move forward until we have that information. And we notified the county and the homeowners and.
That's all fine.
College of Marin, yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I would-
Can't be done by Friday. I mean, I don't know. It's okay. It would just mean that we do it when we have done everything you want done in advance.
I would give Jennifer discretion to, once she talks to College of Marin to find out the construction schedule, figure out how much of a problem this really is, to let it sort of linger. I would just give Jennifer discretion to go ahead and move forward with it based on, all the information she has. I'd be comfortable with that.
Okay,
Agree.
do we all agree? Because
Yeah.
I think, Jennifer, what you're really emphasizing is let's get this done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, what I was kind of verbally approving was that we were going to do the repair, regardless of what the schedule was
Okay,
from College of Marin, but we were still gonna notify these entities.
okay,
I would disagree with that.
Alright.
I would say, College of Marin can tell you tomorrow. They've
yes,
got a construction schedule.
Mhm.
That they're not gonna, that should not linger. But I think we should empower Jennifer to make a decision to move forward. Contingent that she has the information from the College of Marin on their construction schedule, that's not going to impact
Mhm.
doing this repair more than once, right? If it's like 2 weeks or, I don't know, I will leave it up to Jennifer and her staff to figure out how quickly we need to move on this repair work. We don't wanna have to do it more than.
Can I make a point, though? I think that at some level, like if you're monitoring the INI from this point of, instability on the lateral. If you went ahead and did the work and then you understood their schedule and then you could have basically a before and after their
Yeah.
work, then you can attribute it to something they're doing. If you basically wait till to do it until their schedule and you're doing it. I mean, I think it's a point of emphasis is to let the homeowner know, like, we're doing this because of things that have happened in the past, not in order to prevent things in the future. I don't think that, obviously you care about all of this in terms of your main and all of that down there and the impacts on your infrastructure. But as far as this lateral line is concerned, I think that you should really approach it from a standpoint of we are repairing because of, the issue that we gave you potentially poor advice in repairing it the first time. And then anything that happens subsequent to that lateral line due to College of Marin or these other issues with the county road is really not your responsibility. You can obviously monitor it and all of that in terms of making sure, but I think it's a bad precedent to be like, because now you guys are kind of approaching it from like, oh, well, and then we need to make sure that, college, I don't know, that's just
But
my,
if that's what's impacting. If that's the cause, and they have more earthwork going on, then
But,
we
but,
understand potentially what the cause is. right?
yeah, but then I would think that you're like, okay, we've repaired it and I'm sorry, homeowner, but your neighbor has done subsequent work that is, you know,
Clearly.
created more
Impacted,
pressure.
yeah.
And it's not really your, I don't think you guys want to get into the position of basically saying that you're gonna be monitoring this. I think it would be more prudent to just repair it. And let the homeowner know that that's what you think and that they should be consulting with College of Marin. But I think it's, I mean, obviously there's other reasons to monitor all of this in terms of your own infrastructure, but in terms of the repair of this lateral line, you guys are already going out of your way and doing something that is unprecedented and also that you don't want to set a precedent for.
Right,
Yeah,
Anyway,
no, I agree with that.
yep. So what Kirsten, have you changed your thoughts then a little
No,
bit?
I have not changed my thoughts. I would still consult with the College of Marin on their construction schedule. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, you know, it needs to be contingent on when we do the work. I'm just saying,
Okay,
let's consult with them and figure out what their construction
Okay.
schedule is, so.
but more or less, it's, I believe that we're deferring to Jennifer on whether
Yes.
we should just go ahead and get the work done sooner rather than later when she does the things we've just discussed.
That I would agree with.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. Let's continue.
Okay, thank you. On the bike path project, there's a status report in your plan, a very simple document that we submitted on December 29th. And on January 4th, actually, I had a site meeting, a site walk of the path with the surveyor for BKF engineers. I think I mentioned that they, sent a crew out that actually mistakenly mapped a wrong section of the path. And so we caught that fortunately in plenty of time. And so, we walked the whole thing and ensured that we were getting the right section of the path mapped and topoed. Any questions about that? Okay. With regard to SB 1383, our favorite organics diversion law, this is the one that requires that the food waste be out of the garbage and go in the green waste stream. I told you last month that a new law had been passed in the last legislative session, which might give us an avenue to get a waiver from the requirements, and that reminded you I applied for and was denied the waiver before because there was a technical requirement that data had to be in the Cal Recycle database that we couldn't produce. So they eliminated that as part of the requirements. So I'm planning to resubmit submit a new waiver application this week. I did a draft that's sent to our hauler to see if they had any suggestions. They were helpful in the last time I did this. And so we'll see what happens. The main thing I want to do is get us out of having to do the enforcement aspect of things, as we've talked about many times.
Absolutely.
I mean, we have no problem, and I'm saying this in the application, just to be clear, we have no problem continuing on that, in other words, our hauler with the food waste will go in the green waste, and we will comply with all of that in terms of the spirit of that law. That green waste is no longer going to resource recovery, it's going, but as far as the technical requirements of documenting and reporting and inspecting customers and whatnot, that's what we want to be exempted from.
Right.
So I didn't want people to hear me somehow saying that we were no longer gonna even comply with the new structure. I think that is a good thing. We want to be supportive of reducing landfill contributions and methane and all that. So if that's not, the issue isn't a problem with the law or its objectives, it's the burden on a small district to do the enforcement and compliance. But we'll see. Last month, I also reported that on November 16th, the county deputy zoning administrator approved the county's application for a coastal permit to implement the resident permit parking program in downtown Bolinas. And there were no local appeals of that decision. So what I told you last month was that, as we understood it, the final action notice had gone to the Coastal Commission, and that the appeal period had expired on December 26th. Our last meeting was on December 27th, and so I was telling you, like, I haven't heard that there was an appeal, but I'll find out what happened. And so in following up with the planner, we discovered that the Coastal Commission deemed that there was a technical problem with the county's final action notice, and they're still working out getting one corrected that will be accepted. And during that time, the Coastal Commission has suspended their appeal period. So in other words, we're still waiting because, yeah, so poor Sherry Hirsch. She's just, I can't quite get across that finish line with this, but the county has said this is unusual. This hasn't happened before, but they are working to correct the technicality, and then I think they'll let us know as soon as they know when any kind of appeal period is set and expired. I think the resident permit parking committee had a meeting yesterday, and we'll have some update documents for you in next month's binder. I think we got some minutes I think late today that I didn't have a chance to get into your meeting materials. With regard to the district's jurisdictional profile and the updated county multi-jurisdictional local hazard mitigation plan, our jurisdictional profile is under review now by California OES, along with the county's updated plans. So just kind of waiting to hear about that and whether any changes will be requested. And at some point, I think probably at the February meeting, you'll be being asked to kind of take formal action to adopt it. But we are waiting on that until it gets approved by Cal OES. Toxic Away Day has now been rescheduled for February 17th. So the information will be going out shortly. I've sent them the required paperwork now, so Mesa Park's aware of it and working with them. So pretty soon we should be getting information that we can put on Nextdoor and in the hearsay to alert people, because you have to make telephone appointments for those appointments to dispose of your hazardous waste. In your materials, also some follow-up correspondence from the last meeting. We did send the letter out that you approved last meeting to Veronica Pearson at the Marin County Parks about the traffic concerns at the Y. And she acknowledged the letter and said, that Parks is working with Caltrans to ensure compliance with all their requirements and to discuss the concerns the community has about traffic safety at the new intersection.
That was a pretty mealy mouthed response.
Well, we also submitted a letter of support for the fire district's wildfire prevention grant application. I know they applied for the grant and will probably be notified in the next few months about whether they're selected. We have some paperwork related to the rate increase for Recology per the CPI that was approved by the board a couple of months ago. We also have some updated materials in the binders from the Bolinas Eucalyptus Group with updated documents about their project scope, goals, and budgeting. Those are all in your binder as well. I also included correspondence I had with the county about, I don't know if anyone's been down to Agate Beach recently, but there's the final two stairs going down to the beach. The infill material of the stairs has been washed out. I was down there this evening and noticed it hasn't been fixed yet, but it was those, again, super high tides that had happened where that material was washed out. And it was really more just as a kind of neighborly thing to do to let them know, because I know they have someone regularly come service the restrooms and garbage there, but I wasn't sure that anybody regularly goes down to the stairs or might not be alerted. And so trying to be helpful really. And it's actually quite, you have to be very careful walking down there. And then we're also trying to get some closure around issues pertaining to the responsibility for the garbage cans at the end of Wharf in particular. And just kind of getting the community center has been,
Didn't
you know,
it disappear? I haven't seen
it,
it.
yes, it did. It got washed away in one of the
Oh, it
storms.
got washed away.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't purposely taken away, but it hasn't been replaced.
Yeah,
I think the county is struggling a little bit with an idea of a pack it in, pack it out alternative, which I'm nervous about. So we'll have some more discussions about that, but the community center has had this kind of legacy role in kind of getting service for the garbage. That just seems like really out of their lane and like a lot. So it just seems it's a county beach or it's a county road, or how should the responsibility be appropriately established? And let's just get it clear and then have it
I
clear.
would say historically what happened is that something wasn't happening and the community center sort of became the head of what you might call
mhm.
the downtown
Yeah.
business association,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
lack of a better phrase.
At Brighton and Wharf.
Yes.
It wasn't
Yeah.
just Wharf.
Right, and went to all of,
We made money, we gave contribution towards that, and it was
Mhm.
never clear if it was Wharf or Brighton, but I think they were responsible for both.
right, but they took it on behalf of the people downtown and collecting money
Yes.
from the various businesses to pay for the garbage removal and
For individual donors.
yeah. But they sort of, that's how the community center got involved, was sort of they filled the vacuum, basically. There are people who were interested in seeing it done, but no one wanted to take the responsibility. So they've been doing it ever since. And but it's hard because sometimes the garbage cans disappear, and there was a period when they would just overflow in 10 hours and became worthless because everything was going into there was even talk about this, forget the garbage cans, because they were attracting locals who were then using it to dump their garbage, And anyway, I'm not sure.
But the pack it in, pack it out thing's really dubious to me because people just aren't gonna do it.
They just leave it at the end of the road. Yeah,
Pick up.
Well, I think it comes back to also what's the county's property and responsibility.
yeah,
And what they are pushing back onto, homeowners.
yeah.
Which is more easily defined, I think, on Brighton than it is at the end of Wharf Road,
Yeah.
or has historically.
There's a
been.
very strange, when you look at the assessor parcel map there, the
Yeah.
last house. There's
Wharf.
house, and then there's this sliver that
Yeah.
goes towards it, then I think there's a Rod and Boat Club property. And then there's a county road, and then, I mean, it's like a Bermuda Triangle
It is.
of,
Yeah.
and so then it just becomes. We hold the franchise agreement in the community. Is there an opportunity potentially in connection with the detailed rate review that we're gonna be engaged with Recology to add those two areas to as part of a community service? I think they'd be willing to talk about that, but it just seems crazy to think that Randy Arnold and Kate Ross are going to deal with the garbage on these two, entrances to the beach.
Yeah.
And so it seems that either should be the county through their unincorporated Marin, they hold the franchise for unincorporated Marin. We hold it within Bolinas. So you got these two little, they do the garbage at Agate Beach. So that's why
Yeah,
the county parks.
That's the county park,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think,
But that-
Kevin?
Ag, it's not National Marine Sanctuary.
The water, but the
Is-
land is county.
Yeah, cause I worked on that
Mhm,
for Marin County,
mhm.
Parks and Rec. So they were responsible.
And they do the tennis courts, right?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Does
county
tennis
park,
courts.
that's county park also.
Right.
So, Kevin and I were supposed to meet with the people from Ecology after you get back, Kevin. And to talk about a very large rate increase that they're requesting. based on a claim that they're losing money. And so we were supposed to get some information from them to look at their books essentially and see what their real finances are. But Kevin, what would you think about us adding that component of garbage collection when we sit down to talk to them about incorporating the collection of garbage at the end, either end at Brighton and Wharf as part of an overall agreement with them?
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I'd much rather have the county take care of it. Like we say, this is a county beach, and you know, if the Coastal Commission wants to create access for everybody to the beach, then you know, then the county and the Coastal Commission needs to make sure that they clean up properly after all of our visitors. I don't think it's up to Bolinas to do that. You know, like you say, the county ranger is already emptying the trash at the county park, at the tennis court. I see them there all the time emptying the trash. Jennifer, in response to the email back and forth with the county, I do see the Conservation Corps box truck emptying that trash can at the end of Wharf Road, sorry, at the end of Brighton, you know, fairly irregularly. I just happen to see them every now and again. So I know they do come and empty it sometimes. I don't know when or how often, but I've seen them out there.
Oh,
But I don't think we should be paying, you know, on behalf of the town for trash collection at the county beaches.
Yeah, no, it would be something we'd negotiate that they would provide,
yeah,
you know, free, basically, as, you know, a negotiating point. But I agree with you that, and that's why I started with the county, the first instance, I think the county, personally agree with you that we should try to get the county to undertake it.
Yeah.
So, but we'll see, and for all the reasons everything that Kevin just said, but it would be kind of a fallback, so to speak, to you know, suggest this alternative where the district did it. I think there's a history of recology in our hauler generally. I mean, we don't pay for garbage or the service here at the district because we hold the franchise. There are other services that they provide without charge on public basis. But I think we should try first with the county and just get all concerned in one place and have a very clear understanding about it, I think.
Yeah, okay, that's a good proposal. Okay, let's
Okay.
continue.
Then just a couple of quick things are sort of related, and I kind of loosely under the Alliance of Coastal Marin Villages stuff, although this isn't directly as a result of work by that alliance. I put in your binders that I'm sure you all saw that the short-term rental ordinance was adopted by the Board of Supervisors. I wasn't there. I mean, maybe someone here was. What my reading of it, I think that the local group is probably not happy with it, or is the group happy?
The dissatisfied with it, yeah.
Dissatisfied, yeah, because of the cap.
They were
high.
pushing for a 2018 level cap, and
Yeah.
the board chose 2022 numbers. And didn't really address corporate entities owning licenses. I don't want to speak for the group, but
Right.
that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Talking with Don and Layla and David Kimball.
Yeah, I meant that I wanted to try to reach out to them to get it, you know, but I surmised that might be the reaction just when I saw that the cap was 1,200 and it was based on the 2022 rather. I remember Don talking about that in particular at the prior board meeting about rolling it back. And then I also noticed a provision that it says that in the county press release says that ADUs built after 2020 can't be used as short-term rentals per state law. I didn't know that.
It's state law. It has to be affordable housing
Yeah.
or not a rental or not
a short-term rental.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so one of the supervisors made this provision for this brief window of time, which is a few months, where people may have gotten an ADU and the state law hadn't gone into effect yet, and so they would still be like essentially grandfathered in to Airbnb their ADUs. It's just like a few, he thinks, but it was one point that they looked at. But it's good news that if you build an ADU, it can't be an STR if you're a proponent of
The whole state. not
Yeah,
just
we'll
Marin County. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we'll
very, I didn't know that and didn't know about that law, so I wanted to mention that.
I think I did like publicize that.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't. know.
And then finally, I put an article that was sent to me by Ken Masterton, that I thought very interesting, in your binders about, a new, lawsuit involving, some homeowners of a townhouse complex in Half Moon Bay who, in 2016 had damage to, the shoreline in front that threatened their homes. Did you guys read through that? Do we want?
That was
Okay.
really interesting.
A very, very interesting article that the Coastal Commission staff was recommending approval of the ability for the townhouse to be able to construct a seawall to protect the townhouse complex, but it was denied by the commission. So they went against the staff recommendation on a very aggressive reading of the Coastal Act. And I don't know if some of you will recognize the provisions at issue, but they're the very things that we've submitted comment letters on repeatedly about some of these issues, because we've got our own, infrastructure in Bolinas that would be impacted by these decisions. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but the trial court found in favor of the homeowners and found that very much strongly against the reasoning that the commission adopted in denying the ability to build the seawall. So it's very, very interesting, and this is very likely to keep going up the court system in California. And so anyway, I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Interesting to see Pacific Legal Foundation leading the charge in there.
Yeah.
On behalf of the homeowner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the end of the manager's report?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going on to item 5. Proposed amendment to BCPUD Resolution 655 to require applicants for short-term rental licenses for properties in BCPUD's jurisdiction to apply for a limited water use permit. So basically, the proposal would be, if you're going to get a license to do a short-term rental, then you also have to get a limited water use permit from us. And there's nothing in the binder, but is this something for us to discuss, or?
We're evaluating that vis-a-vis our existing regulations, and I don't have anything to present at this meeting.
Okay. Item 6, election of BCPUD board officers and committee assignments. Anybody want to, first of all, I'm willing to continue serving as president. Are you willing to serve as vice president? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to change committees? If not, can we get a motion to basically confirm that every officer and committee assignment will remain the same for the next year?
I so move.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. All right, moves us on to update from the ad hoc committee regarding the BCPUD building at 270 Elm Road. Where, is there anything to report?
Yeah, I think Jennifer has some things to report.
Okay.
Yes, I got a couple of things here in that in your binders, you'll see a conformed or a copy of the quitclaim deed that we finally successfully recorded at the county, and had to go to a couple times to get it done right. But I think that it's an unusual situation to some extent.
Right.
But so we now have this where, we have then the title now should be appropriately of this property and the improvements on it in the name of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District and no longer the Bolinas Beach Public Utility District. And I provided this to the surveyors so that now the final step will be able to record the record of survey. So that got accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny because even to the end, I got there well before 3, and we finally got it all worked out. And then the document that the machine they have to issue the conformed copy was jamming. And I was laughing, I said, this property does not want to be transferred. Anyway, I'm kidding, obviously, but, yeah, so that got done.
Yeah,
And
I mean, so when you say it's unusual, I just want to underscore that it was illegal. Transfer from one entity to another.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean,
Yes.
there's nothing unusual.
Oh.
that we have done.
No,
as a
no.
BPUD, but it was just an unusual situation in that we recognized that we had a property
Oh, yeah.
that had not been transferred in terms of its legal
Right.
entity.
Yeah, no.
Only took 55 years to get it done too. huh?
Yeah.
No, thank you, yeah, no, right, there's not, exactly, it was a housekeeping
Yeah.
task to
Right,
take
yeah,
care of,
yeah.
yes.
So
Thank you.
thank you for doing that.
Okay,
The other thing that we're doing is we're in the midst of following up, I think it was Kevin at the last meeting, asked for some additional information about the specifics line items that the Will Scott portable unit people
Mhm.
provided, and so we've got a lot of that information, but I didn't have it all finalized to present tonight, but I'll send it around to the board in terms of the different options that are available for the unit to be pre-furnished essentially. And if we understand it right, you kind of pay the same whether you take the furniture or not. And so we're also looking at, well, which of these packages do we think is the most appropriate? Anyway, so I'll come back to you with that, but I just wanted you to know we're following up on that. Kevin had asked about it, so so that's what I can tell you right now.
all right, and that takes, very good, we're moving right along. Volunteer committee reports, resident permit parking, I think we already have a report on that unless there's anything else.
Yeah, no, I think nothing further.
Resource recovery, you've already told us about where we are with the progress on getting the exemption. Is there anything else on that?
We're just, the committee's gonna be getting we're gonna be getting a meeting scheduled, as I said, soon. We've been working a lot with Joe and Greg down at the site. There was another grind down there just recently that went well. That's what I can tell you right now.
Okay. And the land stewardship committee, is there anything on that? Apparently not. We'll move on to item 9 under business, and the first one is board committee reports, finance committee. Update on the audit for fiscal year 22-23, financial statements, and the budget schedule for fiscal year 24-25. Want to discuss the first one, Jennifer, or is there anything?
We're still in the process of closing out the audit. So I thought I might have a more substantive update for you at this. I certainly expect to by the next meeting. Their auditors this year asked for considerably more information than last year. We have provided all of it, and they'll be scheduling a site visit soon once they've had a chance to go over all that information.
All righty, then on the second item under this is the budget schedule, which starts with tonight, with the schedule being distributed, and it says board adopts schedule at regular board meetings, so I assume that that's what we're required to do. So the members of this committee, you've reviewed this, I assume, and
It's a lot of meetings.
Well, I want to say I added a couple more in here for purposes of ensuring that we front load, and so that typically what would happen is in that February, when I've got one for the 6th and the 13th. First of all, there's nothing magic about Tuesdays. It could be any day of the week. So, and it could be any time. But so this is a little bit of a straw man. But I wanted to offer that opportunity to have 2 meetings prior to the next board meeting about it. And then the same in March, thinking that would, it can get these budget meetings, once you get past about an hour and a half, everybody gets pretty tired, and it might be nicer to break it up.
I
So
think anything over an hour. personally, but, unless it's design related. Let me ask you, can we do these via Zoom or they have to be in person?
Yeah, I mean, since we've resumed, well, let me.
Cause there are two of us.
For committee
right?
meetings,
If 3 people attend, right? The 2 board members who are on the
Two
committee
board
plus
members
Jennifer
plus
yeah,
Jennifer.
and Georgia will be in.
and Georgia, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so it's really up to you guys.
Okay, I mean, I don't think we have to take up this
Yeah.
entire time now, Andrew and I have already spoken about,
I'm
what
okay
might
with
be
Zoom.
the optimum time. I'm personally putting a request in for Zoom, just because that would allow me to dedicate a full hour versus.
Traveling, sure, I mean, that makes sense. What do you think, Jennifer? Does that work?
Oh, I'm fine as long as we can do, I mean, that's great.
And I think
mean,
it's easy to look at documents
Oh,
on the
yeah.
screen.
No, as
So-
long as we can legally do that is my
Yeah.
main thing. I need to just check that we don't have a requirement that it's in person.
I would hope.
I think it's more efficient because we can look
Absolutely.
at the documents on screen while somebody's presenting, but,
Yeah,
all right, let's find out, and then we will coordinate with you directly on this proposed schedule. I mean, I think we understand how many, it's at least 3 times a month for February, March.
Well,
April,
so just to go through it, just
Five?
super quick,
Yeah,
that having two meetings in February. And then there'd be a general, just a report to the board at the February 21st meeting about
Okay.
just the very, that's not a separate.
okay, so
yeah.
that's it, okay.
so
Yeah.
those 2. We
Then
could be
2 and
consolidated.
2, all right.
2.
Then, and what we could do, let's say magically on the 6th, we're comfortable with where we are to report to the board. If that somehow happens, you can just cancel the next meeting, right? I mean, but, I wanted to put it to
No,
make
thank
space
you.
on calendars.
Yes.
And then same approach for March is that there would be 2 meetings prior to then the March regular board meeting.
Mhm.
And that's where it would be at that point, the draft with the updated capital improvement plan, and so that would be distributed to the full board. Then there would be in April, beginning of April for sure, a follow-up meeting for any input from the board and any revisions needed.
Mhm.
And then a second meeting reserved, if needed, to finalize the Prop 218 notice. So then we go to the April board meeting, where the board takes specific action. We have May 3rd where we'd have to send out that, so that's not a meeting, that's just sending out the Prop 218 deadline, Prop 218 mailing.
Mhm.
Then there would just be, if needed, the May meeting, 1 meeting in May. Again, go back to the board. And we'd be mailing things out, noticing the public hearing, and then the public hearing would be at the regular meeting in June 19th. And then what I wanted to talk with you about is that whether or not we could plan to have a special meeting as long as I can confirm that this works legally, to approve the budget prior to July 6th. The idea would be to approve it on July 1, so that it takes effect then, because we have this wonky situation where we're having a budget that gets approved after the commencement of the fiscal year, which has the district's done it that way forever, but I don't really think that makes that much sense. And the county, it's always a little bit of a back and forth with the county about that. So as long as there isn't a legally mandated period between the budget hearing and the budget adoption, I'll look into that. I was going to suggest this.
We can't adopt it after public hearing on the budget. at the June-
I can look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll
Okay.
look at that.
That would be the most convenient, obviously. Okay, do you need a motion to approve the schedule?
Yeah, we typically do that. And let me just say, I also played with the idea of moving everything even further forward, where we'd move the budget hearing to May and then the adoption in June. you really need to start the budget a month ahead then. And that, you know, if the district decides to go to that next year, what I recommend then is the finance committee meetings start in January. Because you can't get in enough meetings and I tried, but it's okay, this is not gonna work this year. We'd have to look at that as a wholesale, move everything back.
Okay. Do I get a motion then to approve the schedule?
I so moved.
About a second.
We can adjust the dates, right?
We can adjust the
Meeting
dates and the
Yeah.
time.
Okay, I second, I'll second.
Well, then we'd present then a modified, if you guys do that, I think we then should approve a modified schedule at the next meeting. That
Well, I think
reflects
this
when
is
they,
the first we're seeing it, and yeah, as you say, it's a draft, so, I think, yeah, we can approve based on
Yeah.
what you said, which is, we understand, I appreciate the outline. And the number of meetings that need to be set, we just need to confirm, what those days and times are, so.
Okay.
And if you're suggesting, could we get something in January? Today's the 17th. I know
Yeah,
for
no.
next year.
next year,
okay.
yeah, I mean, that would be next year if we
Yeah.
wanted to move up the whole schedule.
Yeah,
Such that the budget hearing was in May rather than
Sure.
June,
yeah,
and adoption in June rather than July.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so
So-
the motion is to approve the budget schedule subject
draft.
to amendments as needed.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Aye, four
Who's-
zero.
who seconded?
I second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that takes care of that item. Legal committee, I don't think we have anything. Mesa septic, flood control and roads, anything?
Now's your time, friend.
Yeah.
Now's your time.
Water and sewer operations, we've already had a report on that. Personnel, I don't think we have anything under personnel. Takes us to the minutes of the December 27th regular board meeting. The minutes are in our binder. Are there any comments, changes, or corrections to the minutes?
Everyone looks at.
I don't have any, I actually don't have any changes, but I just wanted to ask Jennifer if she's heard anything from the Canyon Road residents
Right.
or New Engineering. That was referenced in the minutes, and I'm just wondering if there's been any follow-up from either side.
Yeah, thank you. I real thank you. There's something I could have reported about a manager's report on that. I have not heard from Newt Engineering. That's the real gating factor where we were waiting for more information on costs. I have heard from a couple of homeowners with whom I've had conversations to kind of reiterate what was discussed. And then one of the homeowners alerted me to a potentially interesting funding opportunity that could be out there that to help finance the project, but private individuals can't apply. It must be public agencies. And so there's a Zoom webinar on this program on the 24th of January. Yeah, a week from today, that I'm gonna attend and see if it's promising. So that's the update I have there.
Great,
Okay, thank you.
okay. So any questions about the minutes? And if there are none, can I get a motion to approve the minute?
I make that motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Takes us to the warrants. Can I get a motion? Is there any questions about the warrants or discussion? If none, can I get a motion?
I actually didn't see the warrants. Did those get sent out this month? I didn't see them.
What's that?
I didn't see the warrants this month. Did they get sent out? Because I may have missed them.
Oh,
I have the hard copy
We
here,
have them here in the binder.
but do you not have, you didn't get them online?
Those
That
get-
Bell did
Those
those.
get uploaded today.
I don't know. Bell does it.
it's dated January 16th. so-
Yeah, I have item
Yeah.
9B,
Oh.
so this is where, maybe we
This
have
may
to-
not have been uploaded. That's what I'm trying to find
Oh,
out.
I
Yeah.
have it.
You do.
Nine B is the
No,
minute.
9B is
Minutes,
warrant.
this is
Oh.
warrants at the, after that.
No, I thought he was asking about the minutes. Were you asking?
No, I'm asking about the warrants, the
Oh, I'm
warrant.
sorry. I thought you were
Yeah.
asking about the minutes. Sorry.
Did you get these?
No, I don't have, the warrants were. not-
Okay,
that's
well,
why
then
I'm
I feel like,
It's
okay,
like-
that, I apologize, I don't know why that didn't get uploaded, we'll
Yeah.
need to, we can have it on the agenda for the next meeting unless, I mean, I know people are looking at them now, but if you didn't.
Okay,
get
well,
a
I can
chance-
take a moment, you guys wanna look at these and, big one.
I'm just looking at the big ones, you know, Queen Road, Piazza Construction,
Mhm.
29K. 14K was,
That's health benefits, so that's just health insurance.
okay, but that.
That's
that one
that's
stood
the
out
big,
to me.
okay,
What's the 26.5?
Aqua JPA, yeah, so I think the main issue or question would be, what was the Queen Road, Piazza construction for almost 30,000?
Yeah, that was the project we had a meeting about. It was on the agenda and authorized as an emergency repair. We needed to abandon the Queen Road water main because of bluff erosion nearby, and that ended up also including Cherry Road because both of those were threatened by bluff erosion. So that was an emergency repair.
Okay,
And just to mention, the reason that there's a lot of warrants that are written at this time of year is that we are always very low on cash before the infusion of the money we get through the property tax collection system. So we get that money hits our books in mid-December, and then we're typically paying a lot of bills that we have had to hold on to a little bit. So this is unusually, this happens at this time of year, but this is December, and then also again, right after April is when we tend to have maybe a month and a half to 2 months worth of invoices that we're paying.
makes sense. You wanna take a look?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of big numbers. in
Oh,
there.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
19,000,
All right, I mean,
even anything over 5. kind of jumps
which
out
is
at
the
me.
19?
That's Thatcher Company,
Thatcher
that's
Company?
that's the alum additive we use in the coagulation process. Pre-treatment at the water treatment plant, and we have to buy that about every 3 years. So that lasts about 3 years.
Cool. Okay, any other?
How do we know that? I mean, other than hearing you. report
That is how you know. You have to
Yeah.
ask, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, when you
Okay.
review the checks, the director who reviews the checks, anytime you're signing, you can always look at all the invoices and backup or ask me at the time about.
Yeah, I don't mean so much individually, like, it would be great to know that here we see a memo and that this is, every 3 years, right? It's a fairly big number,
On the report, it would be nice
Yeah.
if there was a memo,
noting that
column
it's,
on the report,
this is
alum
attributed
every 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that this is just like we're getting used to this because I think this is just the 3rd time that we've purchased it, because the coagulation system went in and was permitted in 2017. And then I think then 2020, we bought more, and then 2023. So we were talking internally about, specifically budgeting for that, as it comes up, because it comes up just on that sporadic basis.
I think what person was talking about was just in the report itself. If it was possible to format it so that there was a column for memo.
Yeah.
So that it was, anyone reading it would know precisely what we were buying from Thatcher and how often we did it. I mean,
Right.
it
This year
should
looks
just
like a
be
big
like a
number.
memo column,
Right.
like.
Yeah.
We have a memo, it's just if we could.
Yeah, there is a memo column, but I think if you just add more specific, like what interested you right away was the number, and then you find out it's for 3 years, now it makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
So maybe include that kind of just parentheses, 3 years.
Well, this actually gets printed on the check, so we could create a second column that would require Bell to add she could upload this and then import in a second column with additional information, because you don't want all of that like written on the check. That's
Right.
like that's literally what appears in the memo section of the check itself.
Well, should we just do that for some checks over a certain amount? Cause that's kind of a lot of work to do that for about 50 checks, isn't it?
Yeah, no, not every check.
Or we just review it ourselves and we flag
can
things
just
we
ask.
wanna ask about.
Oh, okay. What do you think about
Or I
that?
guess it's getting noted in the meeting minutes tonight, right?
Yeah.
I-
Okay.
I mean, I can just address how we do it at the school, because we have the same exact issue, and this is exactly what we go through. Is basically, I mean, obviously, if you have these in advance, then you can go through them
Yeah,
prior to the meeting. And then people flag high numbers, and then we get it explained
Okay.
to us, but.
And it gets captured.
Yeah, because I think that these are kind of automatically generated, so it's kind of probably easier to do it that way. I mean, obviously, you could also have a policy where it's like anything over 5, can you alert us? So, or whatever, you know, but I mean, you usually have that kind of policy around your approval, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine that you guys have something in place that
Well,
tells you.
often, yeah, at a meeting, when the warrants come up and somebody, generally Kevin, will say, you know, what is this item for, why that amount or something? But one of us might, the way Kirsten did just now, going, what's that? So the policy would be, and then we would answer it at the meeting.
But yeah, and often though, I'm trying to say, like, often the case is that we're, as board members, reminded, oh yes, we approved this.
Yeah.
You know, a long time ago,
Mhm.
because it was over a certain amount.
Yeah.
And so we have, you know, an approval process where if, you know, something's over 15K or whatever, you need to get board approval prior to the purchase. And then it's purchased, and then we forget about it, and then we see it on the warrants, and we're like, what's this? And then we're reminded, yes, you approved that in the, you know. whatever meeting.
Yeah, it's really more of a bookkeeping software.
It's like,
It's really more of a bookkeeping software glitch, but because the software creates the checks with this on it, and you don't want all that info on the checks,
yeah,
then you can't get the info on the report that it's printing out. That's a software issue, really.
Yeah, but ours are equally opaque. They
Yeah.
look exactly
Which
like
is-
this. It's just annoying.
yeah. Kevin, did you have your hand
Better
up?
software.
I just think, like Jennifer said, if there's a way to have an internal memo that doesn't get printed on the checks, but that's a column that Belle or Jennifer or Georgia can enter in a little bit of this information, that would be helpful for the board to see every month, just so we wouldn't have to take up meeting time asking these questions. Like last month, I think it was one of the operators was reimbursed $3,000 because I think it was Andrew, because he put, you know, an Amazon delivery on his credit card. So, you know, one of the directors caught that and asked about that. So, you know, if this was just written on the list of warrants, then we wouldn't have to take up meeting time asking about it. Just if it's easy enough to do it within the bookkeeping software, that would be ideal. But if it's not possible, then, you know, the directors will just continue to flag things on our own and ask about them at the meeting.
Well, it seems easy enough from my perspective. You could do a PDF of what you're presenting and then just be able to add on that PDF some kind of commentary, of what's attributing to a $19,000, you know, number. I mean, I think anything that's gonna be, as I said, over $4,000 or $5,000, it's, you know, I'm gonna lean in and be like, why, what's this? You could anticipate that by just adding onto the PDF, a simple note. The board approved this, it's every 3 years.
Yeah, I'll need to talk to Belle because she generates it, so just need to talk about what's possible in terms of that format. The other thing could just be a cover memo that goes with the
Yeah.
warrant list flagging. That might be easier.
Yeah.
Just flagging
Yeah.
unusual expenses.
Yeah,
I like that because it's transparent for the records too. Again, rather than having the discussion for meeting, just like a short memo about
Mhm.
Yeah.
anything over X amount of money.
yeah, you can have a little asterisk,
Yeah.
against those items, and then,
memo.
yeah, okay. So you want to take one more look before we vote?
Well, I mean, I had a number of questions, but I don't wanna.
No,
Go ahead.
ask whatever you want to ask.
So what's that one? 5,487. Can't see, is that perk rentals?
That was a rental of the temporary generator at the water treatment plant. I reported that our generator
Okay.
needed to be repaired and taken off site. So by law, we're required to have backup power, water treatment plant. So we had to make an emergency rental. So we're required at all 24/7 of backup power. So as soon as we had a problem with the generator and it couldn't be repaired on site, it had to be taken off site, we had to get a rental.
All right, here's like one, is that Pace or is that PG&E?
PG&E.
Okay. That we just talked about Queen Road. Thatcher, we talked about Cypress Urban Forestry, 7,000.
That was for the the Ray Moritz report.
Right? AT&T, that 8,000?
No.
What's that?
This is the line. SWRCB annual permit fee, 8431.
The annual permit for our, I think that's our water system annual permit. So we pay the regulators, permit fees for the privilege of being regulated.
Okay, Bolinas Fire Protection, 6,500.
Fuel, that's
Yes.
fuel for half the year for our vehicles. We purchase fuel from the fire department. They have the combo there.
Okay. Annual permit fee, 5,700,
Isn't that the same people as this one?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's another permit fee. They regulate the distribution system, they regulate the treatment system, you pay separate fees, and then on the sewer side of things, you pay a collection system permit fee and a wastewater treatment permit fees. So we
Okay.
pay,
That
yeah.
seems, yeah,
it's the same entity, State Water Resources
Yep.
Control Board, it's either for their water or for the wastewater division.
and then 4,000 for biological site assessment.
Which one's there?
WRA on the second page.
I'm pretty sure that's for the wells. Let me look at it. Yeah, for the wells, and then the biological site assessments for the groundwater wells projects, and then it looks like there was just a little bit in connection with the project in the eucalyptus grove, including the monarch habitat work. So that's what that second one is. But the main one for 4,000 is the biological site assessment that is required as part of our coastal permits for the wells.
Any other questions about the warrants?
Oh, Kevin, did we do you justice?
You guys did a great job. Very impressed.
All right, well, Jennifer did a great job. Thank you.
Answer all the questions.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the warrants? Please.
I guess I make a motion to approve, see. I guess.
Yeah. But any seconds? Grace, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4-0. And that has us to scheduling the next meeting.
Which would normally be February 21st.
Okay,
Okay.
I will not be here.
Oh.
I might not be here either.
really?
I'm not going here.
Yeah, is there any option to move that to the week prior? Although that I believe is Valentine's Day. I don't know if that caused an issue for anybody, but that week, the February 21st, is a school
out.
holiday.
Yeah,
So I know Grace is off work and my kids are off school, so we may try to go somewhere, but I could be back for the meeting if we want to hold it there, but if there's interest, I'd prefer to move it to another week.
I am not here that week.
Uh-huh.
It
Well,
is.
I could do the 14th.
If Andrew's not here, then we can't get a quorum anyway.
14th.
He's looking it up right now.
I can do the 14th. I'd rather push it in the future since we've only had 3 weeks since our last meeting.
That is 4 weeks, so just so you know.
Can we do it
The
the
14th would be
28th?
4 weeks.
Can we
Yeah,
do it the 28th?
28th or the 14th is fine with me.
Either one is fine.
But you're not here for the 21st.
No,
I'm not here either.
Okay, so I would say the 21st doesn't work.
Okay,
So are we talking about doing it a week earlier, which is Valentine's Day, or a week later? Which is, I guess, 5 weeks from today, right? It'd be 6 weeks. from today.
Yeah, it's a 17th today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would be 6 weeks, if we do it at the end of the.
Uh-huh.
I would go for the 14th personally. But I don't care. Do you have a preference?
I don't care if it's not working.
I'm looking at the finance committee meeting schedule, which would make the 14th. Really crammed, that the first 2 weeks of February would be a huge number of meetings. And a lot of, for that reason. I don't mind either way between the dates, like as far as just as a general matter, but for purposes of finance committee people working then and also a board meeting, it might mean the 28th would be better.
Okay,
On with the 28th.
Yeah.
all right. Let's do it then, the
All right.
28th.
Okay.
All right, so the next meeting will be February the 28th. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.
You.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon. Take
Thank
care.
Okay,
you.
yeah, we'll see you for the next one.
You're home.